positive aspect of the assignment. I shouldn't be here standing. That is the truth. You didn't spare me, but you challenged me, provoked that intellectual curiosity. We all want good for this country. There's no doubt about that. So no matter how critical an opinion is or on the edge of it, they want the goodness of the country.
Tinubu's comments come after the Federation Account Allocation Committee disbursed a total of 1.894 trillion naira to the federal, state and local governments. In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu has constituted a Presidential Petroleum Reform and Value Optimization Task Force to design and coordinate the next phase of structural reforms in Nigeria's petroleum sector. The task force, led by co-founder of Guarantee Trust Bank, Fola Adeola, is expected to produce reform blueprints aimed at unlocking investment capital and strengthening Nigeria's position as a leading global energy investment destination. The presidency described the task force as a working group that will focus on designing practical policy frameworks and implementation strategies to enhance the competitiveness, transparency and value creation capacity in the petroleum industry. Other members of the force include Ademola Adeyemi Bero, Osage Okumbo, Abraka Suleiman, Adeze Agwele, Farouk Gumel, among others. Taking a look at developments outside of Nigeria, the African National Congress caucus in the Western Cape Provincial Legislature has called on Western Cape Premier Alan Wind to resign after accusing him of double standards and delinquency. The criticism follows a special meeting of the Standing Committee on the Premier and Constitutional Matters, where the budget of the Department of the Premier was discussed. ANC questioned Wind about findings by the Conduct Committee of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament related to his failure to disclose sponsored international travel to the United States. In its statement, the ANC caucus said Wind's conduct demonstrated a lack of respect for democratic institutions and the oversight role of the provincial legislature. Elsewhere, Morocco's national carrier Royal Air Maroc has extended the suspension of all flights to and from Dubai and Doha until the end of March due to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. In a statement published on its official website, the airline said all flights between Casablanca and the cities of Dubai and Doha will remain cancelled through March 31. The airline advised affected passengers to regularly check the status of their flights and contact the original point of sale or the airline's call center to review available options regarding their bookings. Regional hostilities triggered by Israeli-US strikes on Iran and on February 28 have forced major carriers to cancel or delay flights for safety reasons. Still to come on Global, Trump threatens to strike Iran's Carg oil hub over closure of Hormuz. Thank you for keeping it locked on to Adami Mugo 93.1 FM, taking more stories on Globe File. Now, the U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to strike the oil infrastructure of Iran's Carg Island hub unless Tehran stopped attacking vessels in the Straits of Hormuz. Trump, in a social media post, said the U.S. had totally obliterated military targets on the island, although the strikes did not target Carg's oil infrastructure. He, however, warned that should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Straits of Hormuz, he will immediately reconsider the decision. The latest threat on Carg Island, which is the export terminal for 90% of Iran's oil shipments, could compound the instability across global markets. And now to the Netherlands, where a Jewish school in Amsterdam was hit by an explosion early this morning in what the city's mayor called a deliberate attack against the Jewish community. Mayor Femke Alsema said the police have security camera footage of a person planting an explosive device at the school. Alsema confirmed that no injuries were reported and damage was limited, but condemned that act as a cowardly act of regression against the Jewish community. Today's explosion is the latest in a spate of suspected attacks against Jewish institutions in recent weeks. And our Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff have said North Korea fired around 10 ballistic missiles towards the Sea of Japan this morning. The Chiefs of Staff said in a statement that around 10 unidentified ballistic missiles launched from the Sinan area in North Korea towards the East Sea at around 1:20 p.m. Earlier in the day, Seoul had alleged that Pyongyang fired at least one unidentified projectile, while Japan also alleged the launch of a projectile, which is suspected to be another ballistic missile. The ballistic missiles came days after Pyongyang warned of terrible consequences over the ongoing annual South Korea-US military drills. And let's turn our attention to the entertainment scene, where the remakes of Snow White and the War of the Worlds have topped the Razzies, which is the 46th Golden Raspberry Awards that honors the worst films released in a year. Disney's latest live-action remake of Snow White had been mired in controversy years before its disappointing release nearly a year ago. But ultimately, it was the film's bizarre computer-generated dwarfs that drew the most flack and earned the movie's 2 Razzies. The awards are based on votes from members of the Golden Raspberry Foundation. And that's it on Global this afternoon. But before bringing it all to an end, here's a recap of the biggest stories. We told you that President Bola Tinubu has said Nigeria's development cannot be left for the federal government alone, and has asked the media to hold states and local governments accountable. We also brought it to your attention that the African National Congress caucus in the Western Cape Provincial Legislature is demanding the resignation of Western Cape Premier Alan Wind, accusing him of double standards and delinquency. Finally, we told you that U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to strike the oil infrastructure of Iran's Karg Island hub unless Tehran stopped attacking vessels in the Straits of Hormuz. Global was put together by Ayo Adike. I am Sam Olugbemini. Thanks for listening. Good afternoon.